G'day guys, just welcome back to another video. Just doing another sort of quick movie review, just of a movie I saw that I watched recently. Talking about Artificial Intelligence, which is a movie, Steven Spielberg movie from 2001. This is a bit like a video response to another good YouTuber on here. He's called, his channel name's called Robin's Taste. I think he's from Sweden. Doesn't have many subs, but I always enjoy watching his channel. I might leave his link down below. You should subscribe to him. Good YouTuber. AI, artificial intelligence. Now it's a movie I have never sort of seen before. I've seen like 5 minutes of it. I think perhaps just on TV one day, and it looked like a pretty interesting, sort of sci-fi type movie. Now I think it's actually originally it was Stanley Kubrick was sort of working on it. I think he was working on it for about sort of 10 years on and off. And I think Spielberg sort of came into it and they're sort of working on it together. And I think eventually, Stanley Kubrick died I think before that sort of was sort of finished. And so I think Steven Spielberg was sort of took over the whole project, I suppose. So actually the premise to it, it's got Haley Joel Osment and Jude Law. They're the two main characters, or two famous people anyway. So essentially, the premise, essentially it's about this couple, a man and a woman, and their son gets sick, sort of ends up in a coma, and they obviously really upset at that. They're having a hard time trying to deal with it. Anyway, the father works at like some sort of like a corporation where they sort of make sort of robots or synthetic humans, and sort of it's kind of like I don't want to say a slave labour, but they're sort of, what I mean. They sort of do menial tasks, like a butler or a cleaner or sort of things like that. Anyway, they have this new sort of prototype for a boy, like a little boy robot type thing. That's basically like a child, like I guess to sort of love their love their parents and sort of thing. You know what I mean? So anyway, the father brings this sort of prototype robot home, and the mother obviously freaks out and doesn't want anything to do with it, sort of thing. And eventually, over time, she sort of gets used to the idea, and the robot's sort of designed to sort of, but actually love his parents, and sort of set that's his main objective basically. So it's sort of like hardwired into his programming. Anyway, it doesn't really work out. There's lots of sort of, won't spoil it perhaps, but certain things happen, and I think that the son comes back. The real son comes back, and there's a bit of an issue. The two kids sort of fight together, and other things sort of happen, and eventually, so the mother sort of decides to take it back to the the corporation, sort of to get disposed of, which is the only way that you can do it, because the robot's sort of hardwired in to the parents, basically to those people, and will never sort of, they can't reprogram again or something like that. But for some reason, I don't know, she's sort of, instead of taking it back to the corporation to get disposed of properly, she just takes it into the forest and basically dumps him, dumps this robot, and actually the movie sort of goes on from there. But yeah, I actually did, I sort of found that probably the first half of the movie to be really sort of a bit sort of clunky, and I mean the parents, it was still obviously sort of set in the future, and the parents, I just sort of found them real sort of sterile, and they were, I don't know, weren't really, as if they didn't sort of know how to sort of treat a child, sort of thing. And just, I don't know, it was really sort of awkward between I guess it's a robot maybe, and that's sort of why I understand that, but it was just like, you looked exactly like a little boy, sort of thing. So it was as if, especially the mother, I think she just didn't, I don't know, as if she'd never sort of had a child before, or never had a son that age before. I sort of found that a bit strange, and because I mean, if you look at it, there's no real difference between this robot, this 10-year-old, or supposedly 10-year-old robot, and a 10-year-old son, or however the son was. That exactly the same. I mean, you've got to sort of teach your son, from right and wrong, so they know when he does something wrong, but I don't know, for some reason the mother just didn't seem to be able to do that with this. I don't know. There's a lot of sort of things like that. They just didn't. I don't know, I was sort of saying, why do you do this, why do you do that, sort of thing to them, anyway. But actually, I think overall I did quite enjoy it though. The end was definitely, no one would sort of expect, it just sort of goes a totally different direction and of what you think. Great sort of great sort of set design and sort of special effects to it. I think definitely some great special effects. I thought very sort of Blade Runner type scenery, I guess, to it, but I actually thought it was pretty good. The Haley Joel Osment, he was actually pretty. I don't normally like. Sometimes, like, little kids can get annoying, young child actors, but I thought he actually wasn't too bad. He was a bit. He seems very angry the whole time during the movie. I don't know if that's just the way he's trying to play it, but anyway, very angry child. What can I say about it? But yeah, great sort of scenery to it, and I did really enjoy it. Yeah, I thought it was actually quite good. Very sort of, I don't know, it was a bit of a flop or something when it came out. For some reason, people don't really seem to talk about it, and I'm not sure why exactly. But I don't know, I guess maybe because it's sci-fi, and but with a lot of sort of sometimes sci-fi movies, sometimes they're a bit too out there sometimes, and some people just reject the whole sort of idea. I mean, it did remind me perhaps of I had to sort of perhaps relate to perhaps another film, probably James Cameron's The Abyss, which I think is definitely the same sort of. I got the same sort of impression from it anyway. Like The Abyss was very much a very out there type film and very sci-fi and not necessarily a perfect movie, but it's very ambitious in its idea. But in some ways, it perhaps wasn't quite. We didn't perhaps quite pull it off, very quickly. It sort of wasn't quite there. For both of these films, I sort of got that same impression. But I'm just thinking what else I can say. I actually really enjoyed. I think I enjoyed the last half an hour because that was really quite interesting, and I think it's definitely a film you've got to perhaps watch a few times to really get the. I think there's a lot of layers to it that perhaps you don't really get perhaps the first time you ever sort of watch it. But definitely, I think definitely if you want to sort of watch a really good sort of sci-fi movie, definitely obviously it's Spielberg, so obviously it's a really good sort of sci-fi type ET type vibe type thing. So check it out.